Welcome back to US Challenger Series number 9, second game here between Copenhagen Wolves and TTD. I'm at this joined by Pulse, and right from the get-go, some early aggression here, Pulse, looking like.
Yeah, you go ahead and take it because I'm a genius and I didn't get in the game.
GG, well played, Mr. Pulse. Go hit him up on Twitter in the face, if possible.
Yeah, and flame me over there.
Impulsible, guys. Do it. Either way, we do have this line of scrimmage, as the NA casters so like to call it. I'm going to just say trench warfare, because I'm European, and that's how we roll. Either way, Tofu is running away from Youngbuck. This is probably the slowest fight ever. Spidling is getting a fair few nibbles in right now, and lots of harassment, but no summoner spells have been utilized. Are you in the game yet, Pulse?
Just in a minute. I'm still on the loading screen, but I can see it on the stream at the moment.
You are a genius among them.
I am indeed.
Shoutcasts doesn't load into game.
It's just like, you know what? I'm going to shoutcast this game without having any visuals at all. I'm just
telepathic casting at its finest. That's how Pulse likes to roll.
But I am in fact now in game, so I should be able to comment on absolutely nothing.
Not a great deal is happening, honestly, but Sunny XX is hiding around the bottom. I'm not sure if they're going to go in for a belated invade here. Both Snow and Shipper are next to a ward, so they're being scouted out right now, and it appears that iNightmare is going to start on the blue. So looks like the junglers are by and large just going to have that default standard opening, no engages, no invades coming in.
Yeah, and that's I wouldn't say nice to see, but that's just something that's really standard, and they'll just be going on to their respective double buffs, and they probably won't be meeting each other too early on into the game. So top is two very aggressive laners, and I just say aggressive laners, Youngbuck immediately jumps onto Tofu, doesn't really have any recourse at this stage in the game. Ignite goes down, and already aggressive plays coming out, and already stomping his dominance in that top lane. At level 1, Elise does obviously have the Spidling and the human form to switch through, so Neurotoxin straight into that venomous bite is way more damage than Tofu can really deal with.
Yeah, especially it does a percentage of the target's current health as well, so it is pretty nasty to go up against. It was round 2, because we saw a similar thing happening before any of the buffs or neutral creeps did spawn. But bot lane it's very much just a standard game overall, Pulse. This is something very reminiscent from Season 2, before the lane switch-ups, before heavy invades came in. The duo lane's at bot, top lane is at top, mid lane is at mid, and the junglers both just milling around their own jungle.
Yeah, very standard indeed. So we do have Xin Zhao just moving into that bot. Brush has not yet been warded, and the Lantern goes down. They know what's up. It was immediately with the flame coming down. Reckless gets dropped so low. The Ignite comes out as well. Can they secure this kill? First blood picked up by Sunny XX. And Unlimited just returning some damage to avenge his fallen comrade, but that's huge. First blood onto one of the most dangerous people on that Copenhagen's Wolves lineup. There we go.
Oh, Snow is now in all kinds of problems. The flash and the flag and drag from Shook, forcing the flash from Snow. He's going to run back to the sanctuary of his own jungler. But you will not see a better organised, kind of systematic shutdown of a player than at bot lane there. Shipper flashed in after lanterning for Xin Zhao to jump in. Flashed, flayed backwards so that Xin Zhao could get his three-pronged strike off. iNightmare has been caught now, speaking of which. Also, Coutard is coming around from the side, consistently being slowed from the red buff of Shook. The flash coming in, that's going to be the kill coming in there. Now looking at Snow in the wrong place at the wrong time, finds himself 3 dangerous players. He's going to fall, and I have to feel that was a bit of a needless death, Pulse.
Yes, indeed. I mean, he came in and was just like, can I pick up the kills? No, I'm just going to die in return. And it was absolutely huge. Copenhagen Wolves just stomping down the aggression. And okay, you picked up Reckless, we're just going to take out your mid and your jungler as well, relieving so much pressure from the rest of the map. Shook just also moving on to that mid lane. We know Shook is a very aggressive jungler, and so far, assisting in both of those kills on his team, he's definitely showing what type of jungler he is in this game.
Yeah, very much so. A bit of, I guess, a downside there from Ryze's perspective is that he flashed in and was going after the double buffed Xin, which Shook actually ended up taking, I think, with the red buff. Had Ryze have came back to lane with the blue buff here, Pulse, it would be really sad days for Snow. There's a bit of a minor consolation, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. So now looking towards this mid lane. So Annie, of course, did die, but still keeping up in that farm. 2 assists to Ryze will put him slightly ahead in terms of gold, but nothing really to write home about. I'm really looking towards Snow to put some aggression down onto Coutard, because Snow will have the more aggressive and more dominant laning phase against Kaltard, because Annie should win out against Ryze early, because Ryze doesn't have the aggressive laning phases until he starts getting some points in itemization, because he scales so well off that. In fact, he's just going to completely back off. He realizes Nightmare's just around the corner. Just like, you know what? I'm just going to make it very, very well known that you're here. And in fact, meanwhile, top lane Youngbuck drops so low. Ignite comes down as well, and he just accepts his face and drops. That's a huge minion wave going to be fed to the turret.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just the damage, it's not just the kill, it's also denying all of those creeps from Youngbuck, who's going to come back to lane a level or two behind Zed here. It's going to be quite nasty. As you were saying, Annie does do pretty well against Ryze, but when the flash is down, has no escape. Speaking of which, at top lane, Shook has found himself a Zed. Deathmark coming in, and also going back on his Living Shadow, trying his best to escape from this position. Will go Living Shadow away, and will Jarvan chase this one down? He's looking hungry, but realizes, no, probably not worth it underneath the tower after all.
Yeah, meanwhile, bot lane Shipper falls to Reckless, and Kaltard came there as well with the teleport, turning that 2 versus 2 and a negative situation into a positive one, and that's another kill going to Reckless. This is starting to get scary. I mean, it's only 2 and 3 into the game. You know, we're painting a picture that may not actually come to fruition, but as soon as those kills start going on to Reckless, that's what they've built the team composition around.
Yeah, and honestly, the reason why people build Reckless up so much is because he is that damn good. He's going to be joining Fnatic in the next few months. A lot of people regard him as one of the best AD carries in Europe and feel he is going to hold his own and then some in the LCS. So this is definitely a guy to watch out for in the near future. He's the kind of guy here, Pulse, and you were casting him as well, Gfinity, alongside this, that if he gets ahead, he snowballs and carries so hard.
Yeah, and he takes a more sort of conservative role in the early game, picks up the kills here and there, and basically relies on his team to set those up. And then when he gets into the mid game, he's just a complete monster. He just picks up kills everywhere. His positioning and everything is just absolutely on point. That being said, Sonny XX doing very good in his own right, only a bit of CS behind, and plus he's 1 kill up as well. So maybe he can try and shut him down with that fresh lane as well versus that Nami. If they can get the right initiate in the right place, maybe they can shut down that bot lane before it even gets to that stage. That being said though, Kaltard with that teleport really threw a spanner in the works.
I think it's important to note as well that even though Reckless does get a lot of the plaudits, I think Unlimited is an amazingly strong Nami and support player. Sets up so many kills for Reckless, allows him to start rolling that ball down the hill. And I honestly think that supports don't get enough love, and it's important to mention that especially in this game thus far, Nami's done a pretty damn good job. Even though that first gank definitely went against them, it was just so well played by Shipper and also by Nightmare.
Yeah, it's been said that the bot lane will hold that for a second because Alonso gets caught by the death sensors, the trap goes down as well, but Nightmare from behind actually gets knocked up during the Dark Passage, and they will just be pushing them back. Perfect timed Tyler Wave, and you were just saying about Limited's, they don't get enough love, and honestly, that was just absolutely on point. Meanwhile, we have Snow coming over the side, though, the Tibbers comes down, and that is just the strength of Annie. When she gets it right, she decimates you, Disintegrate comes down, and there's the double kill for Snow.
Wow, one of my favourite sayings from Annie is like, eeny, meeny, miny, burn. I think that's pretty apt for that situation. Tib is tanking the tower like a boss. Ryze is thinking about coming down, but would not have done anything. Zed is actually in a whole lot of trouble at the top lane right now. Youngbuck is giving chase, but doesn't want to go too deep and will just farm up those minions. So even though Zed got the kill earlier on, Youngbuck is still neck and neck in this lane.
Yes, indeed. So now pushing down into his bot lane as well. Jarvan is trying his best, but he should be able to repel that incoming invasion. But Snow right now 2-1, and he came out with the unconventional pick, and everyone was like, okay, we'll see what he can do with it. And he's definitely shown how strong he is so far. Got picked up early in that jungle, but those mechanics just coming with the Tibbers and also the knowledge and just knowing where to be at the right time is really showing through. We'll see if we can carry this on later into the game as well. Kind of interesting that he hasn't put any points into the Molten Shield. Guess it makes sense when it comes into the sense that he's not really against someone who's going to be constantly auto-attacking him, so Molten Shield won't help in that respect. And I just say that and he puts a point into it, so gonna help obviously for that passive of Pyromania, getting those stacks up so he can of course get that stun out in the end.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually going to say the same myself, that having a point in the armor will just allow her to go through the 4 spell casts that make up the Pyromania, which will of course give her this stun. Having spoke about Snow though, he is now under a lot of problems, but look at that burst damage from Tibbers underneath the tower. and Jarvan playing himself in a really bad position there. So Shook gets melted in a heartbeat, and Annie is one of those characters you really don't want to feed. Already has a needlessly large run after that double kill at bot lane.
Yeah, and if Andy gets fed, you've got not only initiation, but the damage on top of it as well. You've got the initiation, it's like, well, Annie's just 1v5 our team, I guess our team doesn't really need to do anything anymore, because initiation comes down and just destroys everyone with that AoE from Tibbers and from her Disintegrate and, a Disintegrate and Incinerate. Those are very two similar sounding names, and the fact we didn't really cast Annie that much. But meanwhile, bottom, Sunny XX finds himself caught. Tidal Wave comes down. Will he tag him just at the very end of that? But doesn't quite happen. Youngbuck, meanwhile, top gets caught by both of those shortcuts coming in from Living Shadow as well. And just so much action all over the board, but no kills quite going down. 5-3. So currently we do have TTD slightly ahead of Copenhagen Wolves, but we'll see what they can do about that when we get into sort of the middle of the game and later on as well. But in fact, we do have the Dark Passage coming down. The Acrobatic comes out, doesn't quite lock anyone. Unlimited has been locked down. Reckless, can he reclaim any kills? Sunny XX drops so low once again, but the barrier keeps himself safe, and Reckless is forced to back up with the support dying right next to him.
Oh man, it's such a disgusting combination. There is no playing around it. Xin jumps on Reckless, but he will recall regardless. It's just such a strong combination. Meanwhile, in mid, actually, Annie and Rise are butting heads. Rise just about surviving here. Snow is giving chase. Tibbers tanking up this tower. Tibbers will do damage to Rise, but not enough, and will end up dying. So we've got action in every single lane right now, Pulse, but no deaths. However, Drake is about to fall.
Yeah, I was very scared for Rise right there, because he turned around trying to deal some damage to Tibbers, maybe pick up some gold in return. But it was just like, actually, Tibbers is probably going to kill you. People really underestimate Tibbers, and with a slight buff he had a couple patches ago as well, he's definitely a force to contend with as we progress during the game, with that extra magic resist he now gets on top of that, as well as doing a lot of damage with his auto attacks and damage over time. So right now, 6-3, so we do have TTD just kind of slightly pulling ahead, but they do have some saving graces in the form of, you know, their type of team composition and the fact that they can protect the AD carry when it gets to that stage. But at the moment, you can definitely see that TTD respect that bot lane and been putting a lot of pressure onto it, with 4 kills so far onto that bot lane and only 2 kills in return.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks as though Annie is building towards the Haunting guys, potentially, and Leandri's Torment afterwards, which would be incredibly high damage output so early into the game. Jarvan is coming down to bot, so I'm not sure if they're going to try and set up some ganks here. It looks likely because they are clearing out these lane ganking wards that are put in place to stop players like Jarvan from going ahead and jumping all in. However, Jarvan has instead gone to donate the blue buff to Coutard in mid, and potentially now coming to bot lane.
Yep, they are kind of looping around and maybe searching for this to happen. In fact, he's just going to back off, take his wolves, and play more conservatively. And at the moment, honestly, with that bot lane being slightly behind and Caitlyn being in such a good position, even if he does gank, the main thing you have to think of yourself as a jungler, will this gank turn out well? And will this gank, is there a possibility that this gank can backfire? And in which case, you just completely back off. But Youngbuck now trading with Tofu, and the Ignite has gone down as well. We will be ticking out, but Tofu is still in a good position. Deathmark comes down, and he's definitely aware of the amount of damage he can do. Deathmark will tick off when she's in Repel, and just the damage calculation from Tofu completely on point.
Oh, that was just beautiful. It wasn't just the damage calculation, it was also the mechanics to get out of the way to make sure that Youngbuck didn't answer the call, but we have another gank in mid, this time going in favor of Snow, who is on the killing spree, and does also have over 1,000 gold in the back pocket. So, you know, Pulse, we're getting towards that dangerous period of time right now for Copenhagen Wolves, where Annie is starting to shift through those gears.
Yeah, this is starting to snowball. I wouldn't say out of control, they're only about 2k ahead, but after picking up this middle turret, that's a lot of control to lose on your team. And with TTD, I'm going to hold that for a second because Tofu finds himself caught. Flag and Drag comes down by Shock. Will he have the damage to actually return this in the other way? Cataclysm comes down, Living Shadow keeps himself alive. Quick fingers all over the place, and Flash comes down. Shook not quite able to follow up. The flag comes down, and the flag finishes him off. So well played.
Impaled by a flag. Never the best way to go. But that's a couple of times that Tofu has made the same mistake there, the same error, where he's got the kill on Youngbuck, been very low on HP and just hung around for too long. Nightmare lurking around the shadows has been spotted by a ward. in this tri-bush area above the tower, and is doing enough to push back Unlimited and Reckless, and that's going to buy them time to pick up this tower. While in the meanwhile at top, that tower is falling as well, so it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade in objectives. But again, you got to say that TTD are doing a phenomenal job of just dictating the pace of this game.
Yeah, and I think you have to pay some respect to iNightmare, because so far he's just been such a major factor within this game. The fact that he's assisted in 5 of the 8 kills, and he's forced 2 objectives in the mid and bottom turret as well. It's only really in the last sort of 45 seconds a huge advantage has been taken, and that's really just been down to Nightmare's maneuverability around the rest of the game. And as someone in the chat just mentioned, Snow is definitely snowballing this game out.
Oh, I see what you did there. Play on words, very smart. The tidal wave's actually coming in. It's going to catch both Sunny XX and iNightmare. Both go for a surf. And here comes the box and the Tibbers as well. So much burst damage. They're turning this one around. iNightmare is somehow still alive. There we go. Finally goes down. Ace in the hole on Shook. Will survive somehow, some way. But again, it's that combination I was talking about, Pulse. Box plus Tibbers equals death and pain. And that's exactly what happened, but a 1-for-1 trade doesn't work out too terribly for Copenhagen Wolves. Need to be careful though, Zed is lurking around the outskirts.
Yep, Zed just around the side, so they are still sieging this, they're still on the aggression, so they might be able to pick something up, but they don't have those key ultimates to really make something happen. They have the poking from Caitlyn, but no real front line or anything really to keep them away from Caitlyn's sieging capabilities, so they will just be backing themselves back. However, they are 2k still in front and about 4 kills as well, so in terms of Oka's gold, they are in good shape and control as well, the top and mid turret falling, so the top tower will probably be the logical next step for TTD to go on. But so far they will be backing off and probably wait for those key ultimates to make something else happen.
Yeah, you got to say Copenhagen Wolves are definitely more ultimate dependent than TTD are, because there's a lot more sustained damage coming in from TTD overall. You know, the Zed is just going to constantly be harassment based. Caitlyn's going to be at the back lines, focusing people down left, right and centre. And even if you take Tibbers out of the equation, Pulse, Annie does a shed ton of damage. She is just going to put it out seriously, consistently, and melt faces.
Yeah, for sure. And on the flip side, though, there's some pretty decent sustained damage, obviously from Rise when he gets later into the game. I definitely agree with you, not right now in terms of like the next couple of minutes, he doesn't have the same sort of sustained damage he'd have when he hits late game. And the same with Elise as well, she's more bursty, but again, late game, more sustained damage. But Schiffer moving around the side with the rest of his team, Kaltard finds himself caught, beautiful death sentence, locks him up, and the Flay as well. That's just a complete... I want to say he signed a death sentence, but so that we're using that word too many times in the sentence. But we do have the rest of the team of Copenhagen Wolves just waiting around the side, seeing they put some more aggression down, because obviously Drake is up if they wanted to move on to it, but instead just going to try and convert this into the middle turret.
This is how you play an Annie. This is 101 textbook performance from Snow. And he's getting support in all the right places. The supporting cast is there. They are reading the same script as him. And as you said, death sentence going in, and it's just living up to its namesake. Snow is dropping bombs literally on their head. And Caitlyn, you know, been a bit overshadowed this game, but Caitlyn, Sunny XX has been doing a phenomenal job as well. 155 CS. Here comes a tidal wave. And Rise is going to teleport with the home guard boots as well, locking iNightmare down, but look again at Tibbers, and suddenly in the blink of an eye, Nami will get crushed, Box on top of it as well. Cataclysm used in the back line, Shook is trying his best, but he is going to fall from iNightmare. That is their 3rd consecutive kill. It is forcing back Young Buck right now. He may pick up the kill on Tofu, in fact he's not going to do so. His Tofu survives by the skin of his teeth with the final tick of Ignite going down. That was a 4-for-0 trade, Pulse, and it's going to be a Drake on top of it.
Unbelievable, and it's just now, it is definitely snowballing. Snow's mechanics with those Tibbers always on point, landed on 3 people I think, and just decimated that back line. We did see Shook trying his best just to lock up the back line on at least some of the bruises, but it just wasn't enough. Like, he popped down the Cataclysm, but he got nuked down himself. It wasn't enough, and then his entire team disintegrated anyway. So, I've got to say, Metas, the next question is, can Copenhagen Wolves come back into it? Because, okay, they have an amazing AD carry, but if he's not in the best of shape, can he really do enough damage and bring themselves a victory when we get into later on into the game and future team fights as well?
Well, the problem is that even though Reckless is an amazingly good AD carry, when you have Annie with this much burst potential and has just added a Deathfire Grasp to her item build, the 100-0 potential is well and truly on the cards for taking Reckless down. So as good as he is mechanically, as good as he is individually, the fact is, if he is getting burst in a heartbeat from 100-0 and can't do anything about it, you are eliminating a huge chunk of Copenhagen's Wolves' arsenal, a huge chunk of their damage, a huge chunk of their potential. So I have to say, Reckless is going to have to rely on the rest of his team a great deal here. He's going to have to hope that the death sentences stop landing, that Annie stops landing these pixel perfect Tibbers ults as well.
Yeah, and it's a big ask, honestly, to think, well, hopefully Snow just messes up his ultimate, and that's not really how you can play out the game. So far, he's picked up the Distortion Boots as well. I know how we were saying in the Champion Select, well, Annie's initiates are really focused around those flash engages. Otherwise, of course, if we do get the initiates coming in from Copenhagen Wolves, they can be the initiator, and then Snow can come in with the counter initiate, because then he wouldn't need flash. But this is so clever. He realizes and he recognizes that Annie's main strength is in those flash engages, picks up the Distortion Boots, so that'll be even up it even more, and then opens up more opportunities for his team. Shipper moving around the side, Jungbook knows when to back off. And we'll just put down the Volatile Spiraling as well. 4 members of Copenhagen Wolves against 3, and even now they just don't want to go in.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned yet, Pulse, is that Xin Zhao is a great disruption. He's great at displacement. He will knock people back with his ultimate. So Death Sentence has actually just landed. I'm talking on Youngbuck. The tidal wave instantly put back, but again Tibbers is going to crush. Varus goes down in a heartbeat, the bot lane as well, and he gets the double kill. And I don't want to call this game too early, but you have to say that TTD are looking on top, and in fact, the surrender vote comes in from Copenhagen Wolves. We are going to a third deciding matchup.
Yeah, they just recognize the game's over, we can't play this out, and we're just going to carry on being pushed in. Might as well just give up the ghosts and surrender and move on to a third game. And I didn't catch the first one. Obviously, they played it out because we were watching the other game because it went on for so long and they had to start regardless. But that was absolutely crazy, kind of taking down the Titan, the Juggernaut of Copenhagen Wolves. We'll see what happens in the third deciding game. Anything to add before we go to a quick break, Metas?